By now, you've gotten a taste of what your chosen industry is about and what career paths are available to you. Now let's go over some critical steps to finding that job or internship. After watching this series, you'll be ahead of the game. The best time to learn about the ins and outs of the job market isn't after graduation, it's while you're in college. The James S. Kemper Foundation, the sponsor of this series, believes in funding direct career experience. That's why the foundation is making money available to fund living and transportation expenses for college students applying for internships relevant to their chosen field. But money gets you only so far. You're going to need to learn how to land that job. You'll find many more tips in the book that accompanies this series. But here are some immediate steps you should know. Start by doing your research. Whether you're going for an internship at a particular organization or trying for a full or part-time job at a number of companies, here's your first question. How much do you know about them? It's always important to know as much as you can about the business or service it provides, and here are resources to get you started. The company or organization's own website, particularly its About Us section, will give you background about its history, its products, and what its employees do. It will also give you valuable background on the people who run the company. It's always good to see leaders with a long track record and steady advancement. That could be you someday. So start with the website. Once you've researched the company from the company's perspective, see what others have to say about it. It's always good to check what's been written or broadcast about a company from reputable news sources. Where do you find those sources? You might be reading those sources already in class. If not, or if you'd like to know more, talk to your professors or campus librarians in the reference department. The best publications always present a wider range of viewpoints on how your future employer is doing. What to look for? If their management is stable. If they're making money and growing. And it always helps to see if your target company shows up on a local or national best employer list so you can see what kinds of pay and benefits they offer their workers. What about bad news? That's important too. Sometimes bad news signals a company you should avoid. But it can also indicate that a good company is going through bad times and is making solid efforts to rebound. Learning the difference is a big part of your education. Teachers and professors are always a good starting point for discussing any summer job or internship. If they're teaching a business or professional subject, they should know the industries behind them. But don't stop there. Always check your college's alumni network to find out if there are any graduates who are already working at your target company. Alumni are great resources because even though you don't know them, you already have a connection, your college experience. A good relationship with teachers and alumni might get you a heads up on a job opening or an introduction to an important executive who might be hiring in the future. And when you introduce yourself, prepare some questions beforehand. It shows you're interested and organized, and keep track of those contacts. It's always a good idea to know how to introduce yourself and your skills to the people in your chosen industry. But it's also a good idea to have a plan. Some people call it a personal pitch. Others call it an elevator speech because it needs to be short, snappy, and memorable, and deliver it in the time it takes for the average elevator ride. We're talking 30 seconds or less. You'll be surprised how much can be said in that amount of time. So how do you start? First, make sure you know who you're talking to and that you have a good reason to talk to them. You might meet them at a speech or a student networking function. If they've made a speech and said something interesting, be prepared to mention it. Start by getting their name right, and if they're at senior level, use Mr. or Miss when introducing yourself. If they want you to use their first name, they'll tell you. And then, however you structure what you say, make sure you include your school, your major, and the question or comment you'd like to share with them. And it doesn't hurt to tell them you're looking for a summer or full-time job. Just don't be pushy. Be polite and be yourself. Most important, give them an opportunity to talk. Then it's a conversation. That's what you want. And if they ask why you're interested in joining their company, make it an answer that shows you really understand what they do. Above all, the best way to make someone interested in you is to show an interest in them. And that's how you learn to speak to people like a professional. One last tip. Some of the best professionals rehearse and update that little speech all their lives, and so will you. After that, it's all about follow-up. If they give you a card, hang on to it or transfer their information to an address book where you can find it later. And if someone important takes the time to speak with you, thank them. And thank them again in a day or two with a short reminder that says you enjoyed meeting them. In most cases, it's fine to follow up with an email with a friendly subject line that gives them your name and a reference to the meeting. Some industries and executives might actually welcome a handwritten or typed note simply because so few people do it these days. In any case, thank yous are important. They'll also help people remember you, sometimes enough to give you a formal job interview at their company. So let's assume that's happened. Now, let's talk about getting ready. Let's talk first about making the interview successful. Any meeting goes better when you're prepared. You'll probably be called by an assistant, so don't assume that he or she will know everything about the interview process. But make sure you learn the following: what time to be there for your interview so you can arrive 15 minutes early, who you'll be interviewing with. It may be a single person or a group of people. Get their names and look up their bios on LinkedIn or the company website so you'll know what they do. It's not only polite, but will make the interview a more interesting conversation. And always ask if there's anything that should be prepared to bring for the interview. Some companies consider job interviews a conversation, others like a presentation. Get as much information as you can and you'll be ready. And then, plan your visit. When scheduling the interview, make sure you know the address and get an idea of how long the interview might take. Then plan your transportation and make sure you can spare additional time in their office in case an executive is late, or the best news of all, they want to spend more time talking with you. Just remember, no matter how good you are in an interview, nothing excuses tardiness. Be ready, be relaxed, and be on time. Now, did I say we were going to focus on what to wear? Appearances are important, you know that already. But some workplaces are suit places, others are business casual. Some might actually allow jeans. But don't guess, ask. Ask the person scheduling the interview, or even better, somebody you know that already works at the company. But here's a good rule of thumb. Whatever the office dress code is, try to dress a little above that standard for your interview. It not only keeps you looking your best, but it's also a way to show respect to the people you're interviewing with. It really does matter. By the way, what's standard business attire? For men, it's typically coat and tie, or, in some offices, coat without tie. For women, it's a more subdued, tailored look. Here's another way to look at what to wear. Think about what you'd wear as an employee of that company to an important meeting. So let's go over what we've learned in this segment. You've studied the company, check. You've made notes and started a list of questions to ask, check. You know where you're going for the interview, you've planned how to get there, and you've adjusted your schedule accordingly, check. And you've picked out the right thing to wear for the environment you're going into, check. All that's left is one last piece of advice. All interviews don't lead to jobs, but they do lead to learning more about yourself and what kind of career you want to have. Everyone's always a little nervous in the interview situation, everyone. But be interested in your surroundings and the people you're going to meet. That's always a good start. You're not only there to get a job, you're there to learn. The book that accompanies this series can tell you more. Keep in mind that most of us will not just have one, but several careers over our lifetime, so we always have to be ready for that next job. Best of luck, and thanks for watching.